Um, there's something very cynical about self-referential celebration of capitalism, but that is a whole other
Just a bit.
podcast. Speaking of which, Uglies.
Even as a
Moving,
capitalist, yeah, that's a little bit too far.
yeah. Uglies is a 2024 American science fiction drama film directed by McG of Charlie's Angels fame.
I wish to step on that man's throat.
Yeah, I looked at his filmography, just like, has he ever made a good film? And the answer is no. Even
Hang on. In fairness to McG, I actually do have a soft spot for the first Charlie's Angels movie
well,
because I
so do
don't know
I. But
why.
it's well, so do I. And We Are Marshall. The both those are up there. But can let's look. Even a clock is right twice a day.
Here's
So,
what here's what McG is fundamentally. Okay,
mhm.
McG is Brett Ratner from Timu.
So I don't care what you say because between Charlie's Angels is fun and We Are Marshall's a solid movie. But this is the guy that also gave us Terminator Salvation. So fuck him.
Yeah.
Okay,
Hey,
I'm
well,
just
hang on.
no.
I actually don't hate. I don't hate Salvation the way other people do.
Ugh, I can't stand it.
Look, it just needed to have the right ending, and sadly, when it got leaked, they just were cowards about it and changed it.
Yeah. Anyway, back to Uglies. So it was written by Jacob Foreman and Vanessa Taylor and Whit Anderson. Based on the novel of the same name by Scott Westerfield, the plot centers around a future post-apocalyptic dystopian society in which people are considered
Because they all do.
ugly until they become pretty by enduring extensive cosmetic surgery at the age of 16. The film stars Joey King, Keith Powers, Chase Stokes, Brienne Chu, Jan Louis Castellanos, Sharman Lee, and
It
Laverne Cox.
stars no one you've ever heard of.
Unless you watched Orange is the New Black, then you would have recognized Laverne Cox.
Not
I
with that Instagram filter over her face.
Ugly was released by Netflix on September 13th. It received negative reviews. Yeah, this came up on everyone's fucking list. Like, no one liked this movie. I told Chris we were doing this from Movies That Don't Suck,
There's nothing
and he
good
was like,
about this movie.
Uglies will be in your bottom 5, and he is not wrong. So
I
here's my
can't find a. I genuinely can't think of a single positive thing to say about this movie. The story's derivative. The acting is meh. The characters are bad and broadly drawn. The CGI made my eyes bleed. It's too long. It's utterly uninteresting.
yeah, this thing clocked in at 102 minutes. It was about 40 minutes too long.
It's 102 minutes too long.
I'll tell you one of the things that annoyed me about this movie. I didn't know what it was when I threw it on. I just knew it was on a list of bad movies. So I had to do some research, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's based on a YA book, a YA novel series. I guess the series itself is popular. Like, I can see why. I don't like to pick on things for children. They have different brains, they have different likes, they have different,
Well,
and they are
there's
generations apart from us old men. So there's a part of me that's just like, let the kids like what they like, and if this is what they like, I'm just not going to comment on it. But here, and so a YA series about a society where, in order to create equality, everyone gets plastic surgery to look pretty, I think is an interesting idea
Mm.
as a book. Because in a book, you can have truly ugly people who, like, look, there are people who are born with not necessarily deformities, because that's going too extreme in this conversation, but there are definitely people who have some unfortunate genetic physical quirks, and they do something to change it. They get plastic surgery or whatever, and it's a life changer. It does stuff for their self-esteem, etc. And I don't want to take anything away from those people either. And I can kind of see how teenagers struggling with self-esteem, their looks, puberty, etc., would take something out of a fictional story like this, where, like, wouldn't it be great if the thing I hate about myself was taken away and I would feel better about myself? Now, we can get into a whole conversation of there are probably better ways for you to feel better about yourself than plastic surgery, but I don't got the time or the patience. My point is, I see why, as a novel series, this appealed to teens or tweens. My problem
Sure.
with it as a movie is, one, this was poorly done, but we'll get into that in a second. My biggest thing as I was watching this is Joey King is not unattractive. Nobody in this movie is. Nobody in this
This
movie is.
is
And so hang on. So it's the joke about, like, the 80s movie where the ugly girl gets a makeover and suddenly she's awesome looking. And the joke is they took her glasses off,
yeah.
so her hair was in a tight bun, with a beehive or something, and they undid her hair, and she goes, "Huh." and they take her glasses off and they give her a little bit of makeup and she's suddenly fucking Monica Bellucci. And it's like, Jesus fucking Christ. Nobody in this movie is like that unattractive. And they don't
Nobody
even,
in this movie looks like a real person even before they go to.
the thing of it is like they don't do anything with this. Like they don't, the contrast between when you're pretty and when you're quote unquote ugly isn't strong enough.
No,
Like,
it's
like
really
there,
not.
there was an opportunity for some body horror here they could have gone with, to where like, because the whole thing is this whole world comes about because we use up all of our fossil fuels and the world cracks and war breaks out and everyone's killing each other. Like we could have had some fucking Mad Max shit going on here to where you really can fix what's quote unquote wrong with you with the surgery, and that's what makes it so valuable. Not like, my eyes are a little squinty. That's Joey King's whole thing. I don't like my squinty eyes. And I think the other kid, the kid who gets surgery up first, his nose
My
is a little on
nose
the big
is
side.
too big.
Yeah,
Like,
my nose is on
no, it's not.
my nose is on the big side. It's like, oh boy, wow. So it's like nobody's ugly enough to make me interested in the pivot point of this movie. And that's one of the biggest flaws about it is like
Modern.
you
Look,
did the
man,
glasses thing with these people.
we've complained about this for a long time now. At this point, modern Hollywood doesn't hire people who look real.
Yeah.
You needed regular looking people. A few even. I mean, there's that bit from the Simpsons episode, right, where Mo tries to get hired on at a soap opera,
Mm-hmm.
and he goes for the read, and it doesn't go well. And someone and the like, a couple of the producers are talking like, well, you said you wanted gritty, ugly. So I want TV ugly, not ugly ugly. And these people aren't even really TV ugly.
Yeah. The fact that like Joey King got the gig because she has a unique facial structure and a unique look to her, I was like, first of all, poor Joey King. Like, and I'm not gonna cry too much for her. She got paid to be an actress in a movie. Good for her. But like, can you imagine like your agents are like, we want to put you in the lead of this role called Ugly because we think you have a weird face. Thanks, I guess. But I tell you the thing I hated most about this movie. What you're absolutely right. It's flat derivative garbage, written for dummies. But the worst thing about it is the fucking ending, because
It
again,
really is.
because the whole plot of this thing is that the Empire wants her to join the rebels so that they can find and wipe out the rebels. Have you heard that before? And then at the end, she was just like, "Well, what if I give up, and then I can fight from the inside?" And so she does. So she gets everything that. So essentially, she learns nothing. She gains nothing. There is no arc for her. And at the end of the movie, she gets everything she wanted at the beginning of the movie, after she's basically betrayed and ruined the rebels. The fuck kind of story are you telling here? And it's like, and someone's like, oh yeah, but there's more books, there's more story to tell. No. Begin and end your movie in your movie. If it's good and successful, then you can make more and you can figure out how to go from there. Or don't do this.
Yeah, it's not good. And there's an entire part of the subplot here is, when you get the cosmetic surgery, they're not just fixing your face.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's brain damage associated with it that makes you suggestible and controllable. Yeah. And this is it's not the fact that you look pretty that's what is making society function. It's the fact that you're all brain dead toddlers we distract with the iPad.
Yeah. It's so bad.
And somewhere in the wilds, they're like, oh, we've developed a cure, but we can't just perform it on anyone because we won't do medical experiments on the unwilling, and no one who's had the procedure is willing to do it because now they're almost mentally incapacitated. And I wanted to take these idiots by the back of the neck and ram their heads into each other. Do you not understand the unbearable cyclical fallacy you've written yourself into? No, you don't, because you couldn't even spell those words and you're supposed to be a writer.
All right. For the sake of argument, is there anything else about this fucking movie? It is drab. It is boring. It is all of these like straight to Netflix movies. Like they just look like shit.
This is, I'm not joking, irredeemable. There is not a single redeeming quality to anything about this movie.
I would say, like, at the moment, because again, Madame Web, I didn't hate. It's just awful. but like I still kind of had a fun time watching it and laughing at it. And The Crow at least had style. It's not a style I liked, but it had some degree of style to it. This might be worse than all of them. This had nothing going for it.
I can't put this worse than The Crow because I don't have the emotional attachment to The Crow that others do, first of all. So this is not a sacred cow for me. I mentioned that in our review. But I can still acknowledge the unbearable stupidity that goes into aping and trying to remake that and doing it that badly.
So,
Whereas this, it's worse technically, but I find it less. When I say the following word, understand I mean it in its most literal sense, not its most emotional one. This is less offensive to my sensibilities than The Crow was.
this thing got a 15% on Rotten Tomatoes, by the way.
There's a handful of people who are stupid and bad at their jobs. You and I yell at them on a weekly basis at this point.
Yeah.